And what makes these cases so interesting is that the scale of the opportunities for theft and corruption were just on a scale that's hard to imagine in more normal times. You had a state-owned economy in which suddenly the state was no longer there to referee disputes and to protect property rights. So there just became this gold rush to strip and steal as much assets as one could get their hands on. So for the elite that were able to benefit from this process, stealing big was the way to go.
Somehow state funds got into their secret bank accounts, overseas bank accounts, and then they would flee and they would be rich in the West. Of course, Mr. Lazarenko was surprised when the U.S. District Attorney here in the Bay Area said, wait a minute, no, you're a thief.
Why was Mr. Lazarenko charged by the U.S. while others in his position were not?
Leonid Kuchma was the autocratic president of the Ukraine at the time of the trial, and Lazarenko's arrival in the United States was because Leonid Kuchma was chasing him out of the Ukraine as a political rival, as his former ally, who later became a political rival.
My own view is that the law in the post-Soviet area tends to work pretty arbitrarily. American judges have independence. Among other things, they're guaranteed life tenure unless they commit some kind of abuse. You can't reduce their salaries. They can leave the bench if they want to, but they can't be put off of it except in some cases through elections. I'm a specialist on Russia and formerly on the Soviet Union. I used to work for the U.S. government, both in capacities where I was working on Soviet military affairs and also in a kind of more general function.
Professor Anderson has been teaching at UCLA for 20 years. The government agency he refers to is the CIA.
Consequently, an American judge can do what he wants. A Russian judge is an appointee, or a post-Soviet judge, a Ukrainian judge is an appointee, and he can be fired if he doesn't rule the way the government wants him to.
The United States at the time was a very close ally of Leonid Kuchma and needed Kuchma in many ways, in no small part because after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, the Ukraine controlled nuclear weapons, and we needed to make sure those nuclear weapons were safe and under control.
I don't know what the motive was for starting the investigation in Ukraine. All I know is that the evidence that we uncovered and the evidence that the Swiss uncovered showed that Mr. Lazarenko was laundering huge amounts of money that he was getting from businesses in Ukraine.
What about the Americans?
There was a political interest to maintain that close tie with Leonid Kuchma, and Leonid Kuchma certainly wanted to get Lazarenko. Did that influence the ground-level investigators? I never saw evidence of that. I think Brian Earl and Martha Borsch were both motivated by a dogged zeal to enforce American law and to come down on corruption, particularly when it was brought into the United States, and not let the United States become a hideaway for the world's corrupt leaders.
You don't really think he moved all that money alone. That's a lot of dough. How about a little help from your friends?
Peter Kirichenko was a businessman in Ukraine who started his own company called Agrosnabzbyt sometime around 1992, 1991.
The evidence at trial, I believe, demonstrated that it was well known, it was common knowledge that if you wanted to do business in Ukraine at that time, you had to go through Lazarenko, otherwise you couldn't do business.
So he had to go to Lazarenko and basically say, I'm trying to do business in Ukraine. As he put it, you're cutting off my oxygen. What do I need to do to be able to do business in Ukraine? And the answer from Lazarenko was, I share 50-50. I get 50% of your profits, 50% of your business.
And also, in some sense, became his partner. He was Lazarenko's window and advisor to Western business and banking practices in the beginning, and essentially educated Lazarenko and showed him the ropes and how Western banking and business operates.
And here's his next partner in crime, Allegedly, of course.
Yulia Tymoshenko was in businesses similar to Kirichenko's back then in the early 90s. In the mid-90s, when Lazarenko became the first vice prime minister for energy, she and her husband, Alexander Tymoshenko, and a guy named Alexander Gravitz formed a company called United Energy Systems of Ukraine. That company was given the right to distribute natural gas in Ukraine.
He directed a disproportionate number of state contracts to import gas from Russia to United Energy Systems, and it allowed tremendous transfer of wealth to this company at the expense of the public purse.
The company was formed within weeks, if not days, of being named as one of the companies that had the right to distribute natural gas.
Well, across the globe, the oil and gas sector and the energy sector is notoriously corrupt.
You know, everybody has to survive. And you know, humans are the most adaptable creatures you're ever going to meet. And, you know, if somebody's got to feed their kids and it means they got to steal food to do it, then they're going to do it.
Yeah, steal big.
This position earned her the nickname the Gas Princess because she controlled the valve of natural gas from energy-rich Russia to energy-poor Ukraine, and with it, a lot of both political and economic power.
Wait a minute, Gas Princess? Isn't she the Prime Minister of Ukraine now? The one with the nice hair?
She's the extremely attractive young lady with the blonde hair.
Now we know why the man remembers.
And the plait.
UESU was supposed to distribute the Russian natural gas in Ukraine, get the money for it, and then, as it turned out, they ultimately would share half of their profits with Lazarenko. That was the deal. In exchange for getting the right to distribute, he would get half of the profits. What actually happened is that UESU would actually have another offshore shell company called UEIL receive the money rather than UESU. So the money was taken out of Ukraine, taken into London, into Cyprus, and the money from UEIL would then be used to pay Lazarenko.
Yeah, it's easy, right? It's simple. Anyone can see it. Just follow the money. Are you following? We decided to make it easy on you. Just follow the money. Don't even try to read the names on the bank. It's simple. Just follow the money. Yes, it's easy, right? It's simple. Anyone can see it. Just follow the money.